Hello, my name's John Bowles. I am a musician around the Philadelphia area, part-time. My wife and I, play on weekends at wineries and restaurants and things like that. Years ago, I was a full-time musician in the late 70s, I guess it was, and did some touring, did some recording. And back then I recorded a suite of songs called the Trilogy. And for a lot of reasons, mostly technical and just what we had available to us at the time, it did not come out the way I heard it in my head, which was kind of based on things I'd heard in other musicians like Todd Rundgren's band Utopia or Gino Vannelli's early synth-based recordings. So there was a part of me that always kind of wanted to re-record that and kind of do it the way I imagined it. And I have tried starting that project at different times and haven't followed through with it. I've built a studio in my basement like a lot of people have, and I've spent a lot of time recording other people and doing projects for other people. I've done surprisingly little recording of my own material. And just with commitments, it's just hard to follow through with things. But it's a new year. And I think this is kind of my New Year's resolution that I'm going to do this. And also I've had inspiration lately. I discovered somebody named Neil Morse recently. About 6 months ago, I had no idea who the guy was. I heard about a band called Flying Colors, which features one of my favorite guitar players, Steve Morse. So I found out about them and bought a couple of their CDs. And through that I discovered their keyboard player, Neil Morse. And the guy is really good, just all around. Playing keyboards, he sings, writes. So I couldn't believe I didn't know who this guy was. I'd never heard of him. So I started digging, to get information about him, and learned that he became a Christian in 2002 and he was writing Christian-oriented progressive rock music. So that was very encouraging to me, and it kind of reopened my mind to what was possible with that subject matter and with the form. So I've really been enjoying the Flying Colors music and Neil Morse's music. Especially the Similitude of a Dream, the latest. That's been a really good listening experience for me and a real inspiration. So he's also inspired me to practice, that I could be a lot better than I have been if I really practice. So that's another area where he's inspired me. But in any event, I've just one thing that I really like about Neil Morse is that he videotapes everything. And the album, The Similitude of a Dream, came with a companion DVD, which is the making of. And I just love stuff like that. I'm such a music nerd. If I'm not, recording, if I come home from work and I'm too tired to record, I'll watch a video of somebody else doing it. I just love that stuff. Eat it up. And I really enjoy the documentary, recording a process and watching it through. So I decided I'm going to do that and, go through this project of doing this recording of the Trilogy. I've already done some work on it. I'm going to reposition the camera and talk a little bit about what I've done so far and what I'm going to do next. So I hope everybody enjoys this as much as I hope I do. Okay, bye. Okay, so here is a shot. I just have the camera stuck up in front of the computer monitor here. What I did was imported an audio file of the original recording. I put that on an audio track, so I'll just play a little bit of that for you. Kind of scratchy. So this was my first thing to do after I had done the basic mapping, was to try to recreate the essence of this intro. This is Bob playing the intro. So this is all free form here. And then the vocal comes in shortly after this.
I am the son of Jesus.
Okay, so I put that out there, and if you can just see here up at the top, I don't know how well you can see that, but there was a lot of tempo variation in this because, you know, it was being played by human beings. We weren't bad or anything. It was just that there was a lot of expressiveness in the music, so the tempo was varying from place to place. But I wanted to have the advantages of a grid, you know, working in Pro Tools here. So I just went through the song and tried as best I could to map the tempo changes, and there were a couple of things that weren't quite the way they should be, so I kind of evened those things out a little bit. So I just went through the first couple songs and just mapped out all the tempo changes. There were a couple places where, you know, where we were doing a whole section and the tempo varied quite a bit, but you know what we were shooting for was like mainly a consistent tempo, like around 127 and a half BPM. So I just took a shot and I just set the tempo there and let it go, and when we got to the end it lined up, so that was pretty cool. Same thing happened on the second one. Set the tempo somewhere around 101 or something like that, and the second song, Fall on Me, needs to be pretty straightforward anyway, so having a steady click is a good thing, but I did the same thing. There were a lot of tempo variations. I just took my best guess at what the mean tempo was and set it there, and when we got to the end, lined right up. So that was pretty cool. So a lot of that work had been done already. I did a little bit of it yesterday because I repositioned the start point of where the vocal comes in, so that was on a 1. So I had to pull everything over about a measure. So what I did yesterday was try to duplicate that piano intro, like I said. Okay, so I spent, not really watching the clock here, but a good amount of time doing multiple takes of this intro. I did practice. It still took a lot of work. Got it. There's no MIDI trickery involved here, no fixing notes. This is audio from the Roland keyboard that we're hearing played live. And I'm going to do as much of that as possible with this project. So, see what that sounds like here. That's where it's going to match up with the electric piano. So there's a couple things in there that could probably be better, but I don't know if I can play it any better, so I think that's going to have to do it. But anyway, that's the intro, and now we're going to time align that with the rest of it and see what we do from there. Alright, so last time I was talking about mapping the tempos through the original recording. I got through the second song doing that. I don't have much of an attention span. I didn't want to go all the way through to the end and do all that work, you know, so I had to get some gratification. So what I had done before already too was go through and start to put in some MIDI parts to have as a reference. So, for example, I will solo the original recording, and then I have a MIDI bass line just in there as a reference.
I'm the son of generations yet to be born.
So there's the MIDI bass. And that's there as a tonal reference and a time reference.
I am the path of the shepherd and the
So where things are going to tighten up quite a bit is when the instrumental theme starts, right here. So there you can hear there's a difference between the original recording and the reference MIDI part. That's one of those instances I'm talking about where there was a tempo fluctuation, but it eventually evened out. So I'm just going to leave that static. So I had created some reference parts for that, and the drums and the keyboards. I started to find that I didn't really like using the plug-in for the electric piano. Something I've learned from recording other people's stuff, I have this real temptation to try to get really full, rich sounds, and then when I try to mix them, they get in each other's way. So the trick is to find a sound that's suitably small, that it occupies its spot in the frequency range, but it has enough character that it sounds, it has the strength of sound you want. And I don't like trying to fix stuff with EQ. I want to get it sounding the way I want it to sound, going in. So that's a lesson I've learned, and I'm going to start applying that. So anyway, that process of just having a reference MIDI track that, went through the entire first song. It's nothing you'd really want to hear, trust me. But anyway. Okay, so that seems to come together pretty well there. So that's as far as I've got. I think I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do next. I think I'm going to start redoing the. I had put some keyboard parts in there using an instrument, a soft synth type thing. I think I'm going to go in and try to redo that with live keyboard. So I will get back to you after I'm done with that. Stay tuned. See ya. So I've been working on the second song of the trilogy called Fall on Me. I really wanted this to sound a lot nastier than it sounded on the original recording. And I was thinking like a real big sawtooth synth thing, like an old Oberheim or something. But going back and listening to Gino Vanelli's stuff, it was really like a clav sound. But I found this clav sound on here called Amadeus. It's got like a little string pad thing going on in the background. So let me play a little bit of that for you. So it's got a little more punch, That moves right along. It's got some kind of good groove to it. So those things are a little fuller sounding, a little nastier sounding. And then for the chorus, I got like it kind of reminds me of the old Oberheim. Real big sawtooth thing. So I'm going to try to figure out a way to kind of dovetail from the clav thing into the sawtooth synth sound on the chorus. But I think that's kind of what I was shooting for, what I was hearing before. So it's been a productive day, been a good day. Talk to you later.